very good morning to you. Happy Friday, TDIF, huh? But it's so good to see you this morning. I hope you've had a good night's sleep and you're ready for the day. Thank you very much for joining us. This is AM Live, and as per usual, it is Friday, so that means it is a youth perspective. And of course, today we'll be taking a stock as far as how the year has been, and that is the 2022, the year that was. All right, we have a lot in store for you, so you do not want to miss any part of the show today. Welcome. My name is Winnie Lubembe, and of course, let's begin with some of the stories that we have so far. And President William Ruto's memorandum to Parliament proposing a raft of constitutional changes, and this is amendments rather, continues to receive opposition. And the Law Society of Kenya now wants Parliament to disregard the proposals in totality, arguing that they are in contravention of the Constitution. So through LSK President Eric Theuri, the lawyers also argue that the proposal to create the office of the Leader of Opposition is an attempt to bring back the parliamentary system of government. And TV's Sydney Chazima now reports.
Dissenting voices against the creation of the office of the official Leader of Opposition are growing louder. LSK President Eric Theuri argues that this is an attempt to deviate from the presidential system of governance.
We call on Parliament and all right-thinking Kenyans to resist the attempt to mutilate our Constitution, to change the basic structure of our Constitution to accommodate an office that is not in consonance with the presidential system of governance.
In one of the proposals, Ruto has urged Parliament to amend its standing orders to allow cabinet administrative secretaries be answerable before Parliament. Up to date, Ruto has not appointed CASs, pending a case in court. Theuri feels this proposal is an indicator that the court's decision is already predetermined.
There is already an expected outcome of the ongoing litigation before the court. It undermines the authority of the court.
I have never put a telephone call to anybody to ask them to do nothing. My support for the judiciary is so that they can effectively deliver justice to the people of Kenya. Period.
This is not the first time Ruto and Theuri are facing off. Earlier on, the LSK had successfully petitioned the High Court to bar the National Assembly from vetting of PSs.
My friend Eric Theuri here, who took me to court the other day when I made some appointments, and I appreciate that it's the wheels of justice. And I'm very happy that he is not threatening to organize any demonstrations because he did not he did not win the case.
Parliament will break its recess next year. The proposals by President Ruto are expected to be considered then. Sydney Chazima, NTV.
And Senate Speaker Amason Kingi has received the approved impeachment motion against Meru Governor Kawira Mwangaza. 67 of 69 members of Meru County Assembly voted in favor of the motion to remove Governor Mwangaza from office over alleged abuse of office, gross misconduct and violation of the Constitution. Kingi now has 7 days to convene a special sitting to debate the matter. On her part, Mwangaza has castigated the MCAs, saying they used millions of money and spent sleepless nights to see her out of office. Our reporter Margaret Kimathi has that story.
Honorable Patrick Mutuma.
I vote yes.
On Thursday morning, Meru County Assembly Speaker Ayub Mundi transmitted to the Senate the approved impeachment motion against the county boss. The Senate, by resolution, may appoint a special committee comprising 11 of its members to investigate the impeachment allegations. If the Senate forms an 11-member committee, then the committee will have 10 days from the special sitting date to hear the matter and make its recommendations to the House.
If the special committee reports that the charges against the governor have not been proved, then the matter ends there and the governor is not impeached.
However, if the special committee finds that the reasons for the removal of the governor cited by the MCAs are weighty and proven, then the committee can recommend the ejection of the governor, though the entire Senate has to vote to either endorse the recommendation or reject it. Before voting, the Senate will give the governor a right to fair hearing. If the majority of the senators vote to uphold any impeachment charge, the governor shall cease to hold office.
The governor can still go to the High Court, all the way to the Supreme Court, challenging.
Meanwhile, a section of Meru residents has condemned the action of MCAs to impeach Governor Mwangaza only 112 days after being elected. According to residents, MCAs have no evidence to show that Governor Kawira misused the office. Other residents have a signature collecting exercise in a bid to have President William Ruto requesting to dissolve the county.
Ndio tumerudi kwa wananchi kwa siku moja hii imepita. Tumeweza kukusanya hizo signatures kama umesikia mwenzangu amesema over 90,000 signatures.
Mwangaza has castigated Meru MCAs, saying they used millions of monies and spent sleepless nights to oust her from power, but she has faith that she will win.
Power belongs to the people.
Margaret Kimathi, NTV.
Well, thanks, Margaret. And the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission is seeking to recover more than $500 million shillings allegedly paid to a company associated with former Murang'a Governor Mwangi wa Iria. EACC says that proceeds of the money were also used to purchase 2 properties belonging to former Murang'a First Lady, amounting to more than 15 million shillings. Here's NTV's Kevin Mutai with the details.
The High Court has granted the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission orders to freeze 2 properties belonging to Jane Waigwe, the wife of former Murang'a County boss Mwangi wa Iria. EACC says investigations revealed that the 2 properties located in Nairobi's Umoja Inako and a parcel of land in Mwega, Nyeri County were bought at 7.5 million and 8.8 million shillings respectively.
Yes.
EACC says the monies are part of the proceeds of payments of contracts amounting to 542 million shillings to Top Image Media Consultants Company, an entity associated with Wairia. The anti-graft agency further indicates that part of the cash were directly wired to his accounts, with statements also showing that some were transferred to Value View Limited, a company allegedly belonging to his wife. Investigations also reveal that the director of the company, Jane Wanjiru, made payments for loans, flight expenses, and accommodation. The commission says it is in court to recover the $500 million shillings paid to the company, accusing the former governor of engaging in irregularities and conflict of interest. EACC also notes that it is pursuing another 9.5 million shillings paid to Mlima Kenya Holiday Homes that had been deposited for the purchase of houses for the governor's wife and her proxy. Kevin Mutai, NTV.
And farmers in the North Rift region have welcomed the move by the government to set safety regulations that will guide importation of maize and rice. This even as the government plans to import a total of 900,000 metric tons of white maize and 600,000 metric tons of milled rice from February to August next year, as our reporter Gabriel Kudaka reports.
It is a beehive of activity in most parts of the North Rift region following a bumper harvest. Traders and millers preparing the commodity for sale. A section of farmers and leaders had initially raised concerns over plans by the government to import maize, claiming they were yet to dispose of their produce. The government, however, softened its stand to allow Kenyans sell their maize before effecting importation. The government has since published guidelines for importation of maize and rice to address moisture content, aflatoxin levels, among other safety concerns.
Zile mahindi zitaletwa kutoka nje zitafuata sheria na kanuni zote zenye zimekuwa zikifuatwa katika nchi ya Kenya, na tunajua kwamba wale watatumia hiyo mahindi watakuwa katika hali nzuri.
Waweza kuangalia kwamba kabisa chakula ile inatoka nje kiingia nchi hii imepimwa, imehakikishwa, imepikwa stamp ya kwamba imekubalika.
Farmers have been called upon to stop hoarding maize in anticipation of better prices.
Kwa wale wakulima wetu ambao bado wanashikilia mahindi kwenye magala zao, it is a high time for them now watoe.
Now this waiver is meant to enable the government to have adequate stocks that will last the country up to August next year during the next harvesting season. However, some of the farmers want the government to make public whether the foodstuff being imported is genetically engineered or not.
I know you are allowed to choose if you want to go GMO or you still want to go organic. We still want the government to come out and specify.
Meanwhile, the court has maintained a stay order against the importation and sale of GMOs in Kenya, pending the hearing of the petition on 13th February 2023. Gabriel Kudaka, NTV.
Well, thanks, Gabriel. And Nick Salat will know his fate in 30 days in regards to his suspension as the Secretary General of the Kenya African National Union Party, or KANU, following a meeting by the party's National Executive Council. The decision to temporarily remove him from office pending determination by the party's disciplinary council was arrived at after several complaints on his conduct and violation of the party constitution were allegedly lodged. In a letter signed by KANU Chair Gideon Moi, Salat will not be allowed to perform his duties as the party Secretary General until the matter is heard. Another statement by KANU's first National Vice Chairperson, Thomas Ojanga, dismisses the suspension, stating in part that since there has been no party elections in 15 years, all national officials and officers of the party are on interim basis until their offices shall be duly constituted in accordance with the Constitution of 2012. Therefore, any document, including the deliberations by National Executive Committee deposited at the officer of the Registrar of Political Parties, is fraudulent.
We had a NEC meeting today at the Lake Nakuru Lodge, and the NEC meeting was necessitated by several complaints that we received from members of the party. So we deliberated upon them as NEC today, but because we didn't have jurisdiction to find guilt or whatever, it was resolved that we refer those issues to the National Disciplinary Committee for purposes of investigating the allegations that have been leveled against him. But briefly, there have been questions of disloyalty, there are questions of misconduct, there are questions of insubordination. Yeah, but as at this point, we cannot be able to say whether they are true or not. Yes. For now, he will stand suspended until the disciplinary committee listens to him. If they find him, he has a case to answer, then there are several options of either expulsion, further suspension, or any other punishment that the Constitution for the party provides.
And elsewhere, President William Ruto has welcomed investors in technology and digital space from the United States to invest in Kenya as a gateway to East Africa. President Ruto says the country is ready to partner with the United States, especially in the digital sector, for economic growth. Ruto says Kenya has robust opportunities in the digital space, including the Konza Technopolis that is under construction. He assured the United States that Kenya has given priority to digital transformation, with the majority of government services being digitized in the next few months. He has, however, committed to ensure that technology revolution takes place within the planetary boundaries. The president was speaking at the US-Africa Summit in Washington, D.C.
I invite U.S. tech firms to pursue the emerging investment prospects in the Silicon Suburb in Konza. There are many lessons we can all draw from Silicon Valley and the Research Triangle, which will make Konza City a success story. I also invite you to take advantage of the opportunity present in Kenya's plan for digital superhighway, paperless and digital government, and the establishment of the robust data hubs as our country continues to strengthen our position as the technology gateway to the larger Eastern and Central Africa region.
Conservation International commits to partnering with the government of Kenya and will continue investing financial resources and technical assistance. We commit to working with Kenya's Ministry of Environment and Forestry and other stakeholders to establish a nesting framework which will unlock greater investment in climate finance. supporting Kenya's people and securing Kenya's place as a climate leader. We can and will do this if the government of Kenya enables us with finalization of the REDD+ framework and other required policy instruments.
And the aquaculture business is on its way to create jobs for local communities. This is according to the Cabinet Secretary of Mining, Blue Economy and Maritime Affairs, Salim Mvurya, who says that the ministry and the Council of Governors will formulate and agree on tangible projects for implementation that are life-transforming for the common wananchi. The meeting acknowledged and recommended the need to move away from the software to hardware.
And the ministry forms a task team to review underlying legislations and policies to conform to the Constitution and report back in 4 weeks. The committee will be chaired by the PS Fisheries and Blue Economy and the CEO Council of Governors. Basically here, this team, what they will do, they will participate in reviewing our regulations that have been aligned to the Fisheries Management Act 2016 so that they can conform with the county governments and national government priorities.
And the Kenyan government is seeking for more debt from China in the extension of the standard gauge railway from Mai Mahiu to Malaba. This even as China fined Kenya 1.312 billion shillings in October 2022 for defaulting on loan repayment in the year ended June. Kenya defaulted on repayment of the Chinese loans provided to build the standard gauge railway, highlighting the country's struggles with the mounting public debt. According to the government's 5-year proposed plan, the multi-billion railway line will pass through Narok, Bomet, Nyamira, Kisumu, and finally to Malaba. It is also keen to revamp railways across the country as the SGR had turned out to be cheaper and safer in transportation of goods.
In terms of extension of now the SGR beyond here to Kisumu via Nyamira, Bomet, Nyamira, and then Kisumu, and the other one to this other part of the country is subject to availability of the resources. The discussion we're having now, Kenya Railways, is how best we can achieve that, whether we phase it out or we find resources to do it once. Remember that we are balancing also our debt situation vis-a-vis our infrastructure delivery. And we must deliver infrastructure if we want to become more competitive. And therefore, we are thinking for ways. We want to see to what extent as KRC being able to collect more resources that can enable us, even if we phase out the construction, to start and phase out as we progress.
All right, and of course, before we take a look at the papers, here's what you can expect on News Diary today. And of course, DP, that is Rigathi Gachagua, is expected to grace the Kenyatta University graduation ceremony today. And elsewhere, Kindiki to lead fallen officers memorial. And of course, the sentencing of lawyer Kimani killers will be happening again today, as well as Kenya Power AGM here in Nairobi. That is also what will be happening today, as well as the Maseno University graduation. So quite a packed day, but of course some of those things you can catch them on NTV, so be sure to tune in as well. But that is what you can expect throughout the day right here on NTV, and of course we'll be having some of those reports in our subsequent bulletins. But for now, let's switch gears and take a look at what is on the papers. And as per usual, we begin with the Daily Nation, where right here the headline reads, Ruto's gift to Raila hits turbulence, all right? And of course, this continues to say that President Ruto's plan to create a powerful office for Azimio Chief Odinga has run into headwinds, with lawyers accusing the head of state of contravening the constitution and walking on the same path as the BBI. This that was thrown out, all right? And of course, that story continues on page 4. We'll be looking at it in just a moment, but also at the same time on the front page, and this is as far as the Daily Nation is concerned. Of course, there was the NMG Huawei Jobs Fair, a vital link, says DP Gachagua, and of course he was there at the event yesterday, and says this is a very vital link as far as, you know, job creation is concerned. And where you can see pictured on the front page is the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, together with the Youth Affairs Cabinet Secretary Babu Namwamba, as well as the Principal Secretary Jonathan Mweke, as well as the Nation Media Group CEO Stephen Gitagama at the KICC. You know that the event actually happened yesterday here in Nairobi, and this is during the Nation and Huawei Jobs Fair. That story is again on page 8, and still on the front page, the making of a general, all right? And of course, this is, you know, starting today right here at the Daily Nation. And of course, you might want to actually grab yourself a copy of the Daily Nation this week, where the unlikely story of Joseph Nkaiseri, the Olmurani from Brazil, who rose from a cadet to a general before becoming a powerful cabinet secretary. And of course, in a new book titled The General and I, a memoir, his widow, Helen Nkaiseri, gives a glimpse into Nkaiseri's life from his near comical start to a career in the military, and of course, encounter with then President Jomo Kenyatta to his stint at the cabinet. And of course, that story is on pages 14 and 15 of the Daily Nation, all right? And still on the front page very quickly, and this is Kenyan scientists' infrared kit tests for malaria without pain. That story is on page 10. We'll look at it in just a moment. And then the state waives import duty on maize, rice, and this is to avert food crisis. And of course, it continues to say the price of maize flour and rice have actually risen sharply in the recent months due to low local production caused by persistent drought and high cost of inputs. The Agriculture Ministry says traders will be allowed to import the duty-free cereals from February to August next year. And of course, that story is on the back page of the Daily Nation. So very quickly, that is what is on the front page of the Daily Nation. But of course, that story that we just read, and this is as far as the extension of SGR. And of course, there's a new plan to actually extend it to Malaba as well, and that is according to the Transport CS. That is Kipchumba Murkomen, who goes ahead to say that, of course, this will be starting very shortly, and of course says there is hope for extension of the standard gauge railway, like we said. And of course, this is, you know, to Malaba rather. And of course, the Transport Cabinet Secretary, Kipchumba Murkomen, revealed. So speaking during a visit to the Naivasha Inland Container Depot yesterday, Mr. Murkomen said that plans were afoot. This is to extend the SGR service to the Kenya-Uganda border. And this, however, depends on the availability of funds. And of course, that story that we just read, you know, Kenya was fined this year, actually, in October. This is for delayed, you know, in failure to pay the debt. So we have been fined for the same, but we're still looking for more funds. This is to create, or rather to extend the SGR, and that is to Malaba. So what do you make of that? What do you feel about this theme? Because again, the CS continues to say that this is as far as the Naivasha Dry Port says, this is still economically vibrant, and of course will continue to be busy, and continues to say that several investors who have shown willingness to invest in the area and Nakuru County government need not to worry. Okay, this is as far as the extension of the same and the dry port as well, because I think there have been concerns surrounding the dry port. And he says rather the best thing that happened this year is to connect SGR to MGR here in Naivasha, to go through Nakuru, Eldoret, Kisumu, and finally to Malaba. And in essence, he continues to say, we have fast-tracked transportation of goods. So he actually downplayed fears of negative impact by, reverting port services, and this is from Naivasha to Mombasa. So what do you make of that? I would love to hear your feedback as well. At NTV Kenya is how you can reach us, both on Facebook and on Twitter. Of course, we'll be sampling your feedback as we continue with the conversation right here on AM Live. Remember, today it's all about the youth and, their perspective as well. So we'd love to hear from you. But elsewhere, there is an ongoing summit where, of course, the Leaders Summit, and there has been renewed interest, and this is in the Konza Technopolis. We've read that story, where the president has actually secured a bag of goodies, all right? And of course, this as far as the climate change innovation, space technology, carbon trading, and waste to energy solutions, all right? So the president actually called on the U.S. to review its economic partnership with Africa, saying that the latter must be regarded as an investment destination rather than market for finished goods, even as he sealed several deals with corporate executives as well as stakeholders. And this is in different sectors, all right? And of course, the president urged the U.S. to take advantage of Africa's huge population prospects under the African Continental Free Trade Area, which is on the cusp of taking off, and of course, availability of labor and green energy potential. And speaking at the U.S. Africa Leaders Summit themed the future of Africa's trade and investment, the president actually used the opportunity to position Kenya as one of the most favorable investment destinations in the abundant destinations for the abundant U.S. capital. And of course, very quickly in numbers, so 300, this is the number of world's top venture capitalists expected in Nairobi in September 2023, and as well as 15.4 million, and this is the number of subscribers gained by the Hustler Fund as of Monday this week. Remember, during the Jamhuri Day celebrations, of course, the president really praised, the Hustler Fund, and he said, that the 15.4 million subscribers had lent out 7.54 billion shillings, accumulating savings of close to 400 million shillings in just 12 days, with a 1.2 billion already repaid. So the president actually addressed the summit on partnering in Agenda 2063, and specifically on a peaceful and secure Africa. So that is a story on page 2 of the Daily Nation. And of course, very quickly, this is a very interesting read, actually. This is Mr. Bura, all right? So he says, I am blind, but I can help you pick a good car, all right? How is that? I'm sure you wonder. Well, an eye defect that actually saw Bura lose his sight, but he is pushing boundaries in the car industry using other senses. And I know a lot of people have questions in terms of, okay, how is he able to do that? Well, this could be a very good read, for you, and that is on the Daily Nation, because he lost his eyesight twice, and this is due to a condition known as maculopathy, which again is characterized by progressive loss of central vision when the macula, that is the main area at the center of the retina associated with sensitive and accurate vision is affected. The first time that he lost his sight was he was only 10 years, all right? So that will be a very interesting read. He continues to say that I want to break the barriers. I am taking risks in spaces that are restricted to abled people. I wish to break the walls of stigma planted by society about disabled people. So that is a very interesting read, as far as pushing boundaries. And going after what you want, all right? So let's cross over and see the stories. So still on the Daily Nation, Ruto's plan to create office for Raila meets opposition. And remember, this is a conversation that has been happening, for a while right now, where actually the lawyers have now told the president that his proposal must go through a referendum and ask Parliament to throw it out, all right? And of course, the president's plan to create a powerful office for Azimio la Umoja, One Kenya coalition leader Raila Odinga has run into fresh headwinds, all right? And this is with the lawyers' body asking the Parliament to shut it down, saying the head of state was in contravention of the law. So the Law Society of Kenya actually said, which argued that the quashing of the Building Bridges Initiative, that is BBI constitutional amendment process led by former President Uhuru Kenyatta and Mr. Odinga now, says Mr. Ruto was walking on the same path declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. So, of course, part of my panel is already here. It is so good to see you this morning, gentlemen. Asanteni sana for making time for us. And I'm just curious to hear what you guys have to say as far as this story is concerned. So, of course, Kidi Mwaga, governance and policy expert, is already in the building, as well as Nordin Kagai, who's an advocate. And, of course, it's so good to see you this morning. I'm just going to throw this question to you. Being an advocate, LSK has spoken. What do you make of this back and forth?
Well, LSK is right on this issue because what we are seeing is BBI 2.0. And the president is trying to bring BBI now courtesy of parliament.
All right.
His predecessor had something called the public initiative, which was really never a public initiative as per the court.
All right.
So I believe the things he wants to do will alter the constitution. And when you look at Article 255 of the constitution, anything that touches on those 10 clauses there means you have to go for a referendum. And what he's doing will actually lead to a referendum. And the funny thing is that the political class is very hypocritical because during election, during the campaign periods, I remember him being on top of vehicles saying, "Mutaka uchumi sasa, amutaka katiba mpya."
All right.
And he said uchumi. So when you got into office and you've forgotten what you said, it doesn't make sense. That leads me to the question, where is your manifesto at the end of the day?
All right.
Yes.
Okay, so he was so against it, but now it's like we're having a bit of a turnaround, as far as that is concerned. But again, from an advocate's perspective, because there is a process as far as constitutional amendment is concerned. So what do you make of this? The lawyers are saying, no, this should actually be quashed. Someone was actually saying last year that this will interfere with, the function of the parliament as well. So from your individual, perspective,
first and foremost, I dare say we don't have a parliament in Kenya.
All right.
That is.
Why is that?
That is an appendage of the executive.
Okay.
I dare say, because if you see how things have been done in that house, there is no independent mind most of the time, because most political players who get into office actually belong to a political party. Now, there's something called respect the party leader that they believe in.
Okay.
And the party positions and party lines. And that is why they always panel beaten into a certain way of doing things. And when you look at our house, for example, it reminds me of the Jubilee House, tyranny of numbers, where unconstitutional bills were passed, which at the end of the day, 21 of them, the courts ended up saying were unconstitutional. Remember things like the security bill that passed and led to a lot of issues. So at the end of the day, I believe our members of parliament rise to the occasion. Because some of them who are now in government, they're in government also has been the legislatures, because it's an arm of government. But some of them believe that courtesy of being in Kenya Kwanza, the oversight role is on Azimio. They forget that as an MP, you have 3 roles. That is oversight, representation, and legislation.
Right.
So that's why I'm saying there is no parliament there, because anything he wants will be panel beaten to any wimp that he wakes up with every other day. Okay. And that is a sad reality.
Okay. All right, Kidi, there's no parliament. And Najib says the same. What do you make of the same? Do you feel the same? Do you feel there's, there's a parliament in place? And this is as far as the creation of this new office of the opposition, leader of opposition.
Well, I must, first of all, Winnie, thank you very much for having me over. I will say this, that in regards to the President's recommendation to Parliament, in regards to the office of the leader of official opposition, in my view, speaks to a mentality of cakeism, where you believe you can have your cake and eat it.
Eat it, all right.
The President was one vehemently opposed to the BBI process, and in the run-up to the elections, the President was very clear that the cost of living was biting so badly that what the people of Kenya needed was, how to bring that cost of living down and not to tamper with the Constitution. But then, less than 100 days since he got into office, and now he's, already want to engage in the very things that he was very opposed to. And so this tells us one thing about the BBI process, that the tune must have been then better than it sounded. And therefore, the proponents of the BBI only lost the politics of the BBI, but not the substance of the recommendations.
Okay.
When you say you want to create the office of the leader of official opposition, it is a disingenuity, in my view, when we still have a pure presidential system like we do. And having the office of the leader of official opposition within a presidential system takes us back to where we came from in just less than a decade ago, in 2010. Because remember, in the old constitutional model, we had tinkered with it so much so that whereas we were still having a very imperial president, a president who was a law unto himself, but we had a semblance of Westminster, where we had the opposition speaking in parliament.
All right.
So if the president thinks we need to have the office of the leader of official opposition, I will put it to him that let us be courageous enough and appreciate that this constitution, as it is, especially the pure presidential system, we have tried with it and we have seen its shortfalls, and especially in the area of accountability.
All right.
So that can we therefore either embrace a proper pure parliamentary model or have a proper public participation so that the people of Kenya can tell us that if we are going hybrid, to what extent, what powers do we leave with the president? Say, what powers do we give to, say, a prime minister?
All right.
And therefore, what powers do we give to the office of the leader of official opposition?
Official opposition. All right. Very quickly, before we go on a break, Ascon Kimili is also with us, youth policy analyst. It's so good to see you this morning.
Thank you very much.
Before we go on a break, what do you make of all this?
Well, first and foremost, let me correct that my name is Ascon Kamili.
Kamili. Okay, thanks for that, Kamili.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's
all
a very
right.
good morning.
Okay.
And, when we were coming here, I was told we were going to take stock of what has been of this year.
Yes.
And
we're still looking at the
yeah,
dailies.
and
we'll come back to that.
I just wanted to make it clear that it was quite something, because we've had a really interesting year, and we need to really talk about it. But having said that, I think I have a contrary opinion to what my colleagues here are saying, because on the very outset, I was one of the supporters of BBI. Meaning even then I believed that we needed to relook into our constitution. Being that William Ruto had spoken negatively about that or did not support that at that time does not mean we changed our position. My position still remains that our constitution has some gaps that I view or that I think needs to be looked at. For instance, when we talk about the question of the two-third gender rule, I think it is a very urgent thing that needs to be looked at, needs to be sorted. You know, the fact that the president did not support a process that could have sorted this then does not mean if he initiates a process now that would solve it, then I should go against it. So my position is, even as at today, our constitution needs to be looked at in several perspectives to ensure that we refine it accordingly to serve us. But also, having said that, I am pleased by the way President William Ruto is doing his things, because most of the issues or the proposals he's making today are things that he was very clear about even during his campaign. When we talk about the office of the official opposition leader, I remember at the Bomas, I think it was the Bomas 1 or Bomas 2 during the BBI, when he was given a chance to speak, he elaborated very clearly why there was need to keep the competition as it is, but also ensure that our democracy grows by giving a chance to our opposition to make or to take part in the building of this country constructively. I think just dismissing everybody to the periphery just for the fact that they lost an election does not help in building our economy, building our democracy. And I agree with him that really Raila Odinga or any other person who will be serving in the opposition then needs to be given a chance to take part constructively in the building of our democracy or even our economy.
All right. I think the question
is
just all right. Okay.
Okay.
Go,
I know
Akili
will want to throw in something, but that's still fair.
All
just to finish on this.
Okay.
You know, there are a lot of things that I think we need to learn from President William Ruto, at least for the 100 days that he's been in power. For me, I think he has tried so hard to ensure that what he promised in the campaigns are actually what he does in his term as a president in this country. Okay. When he talked about the CDF, while it is not very popular with the people, the courts having declared it unconstitutional to an extent, he has kept that really there is need to entrench CDF in our constitution. And there are a lot of reasons why I think I agree with him. We have seen CDF impact lives in the villages. We have seen CDF change lives. We've seen CDF keep people in school. While the constitution or the model in which it was fashioned does not really serve its purpose, we should look beyond that and get to see that what really does it do to our lives. Is the constitution meant to serve us, or we are supposed to serve the constitution? And finally, the good thing about how we have been operating in Kenya. The moment Raila Odinga went to court in 2013 and 2017, our courts were able to come up with proper guidelines on how to conduct elections. And it is on that basis that we are at 2022, and there is very little to fight about, because everybody agrees that the election to an extent was done in the manner in which the courts are prescribed. Okay. Now, in the BBI process,
wouldn't say everybody, but all right.
No, a good number of a good portion of the country believes that the Supreme Court was to an extent very fair in their verdict in 2022. Okay. Now, the Supreme Court equally had a view, and throughout the courts, on how a constitution should be reviewed, or how the constitution should be changed, or any modification in the constitution. Okay. I don't think William Ruto wants to, out of utter foolishness or stupidity, want to take a direction that will, go to court and the court will dismiss him. Okay. Up to that level, I know that the courts have already determined how, or the manner in which our constitution should be reviewed. Okay. And the same shall be done accordingly. All right. We're taking a break. I know Kidi and Nurdin have a lot to say as far as that is concerned. Allow us to take a break. When we come back, of course, we'll give you a chance to, again, respond to this here before we continue on this topic, which has been, dominating the headlines for, the past week. So we're taking a break. What do you have to say as far as the president's stand on the office of the official leader of opposition? What do you make of the same? Again, NTV Kenya is where you can find us on Facebook and on Twitter, and tag me as well at Lubembe_Winnie. We're coming back with more right here on AM Live. Remember, it's Friday, and that means it is all about the youth perspective. So see you shortly.
And now you have millions of reasons to find them. Millions of reasons to bring it to life with YouTube Shorts. Be the game. Millions of reasons to craft the story. Whatever you love, it's all in your hands. Hum the tune. Up to 60 million shillings worth of prizes to be won. With daily and weekly cash prizes to be won by over 3 million Kenyans, and one of them could be you. Watch, create, upload, buy a daily YouTube bundle, or create a YouTube short with the hashtag #ShorterIsBetter and stand a chance to win. Dial *544# to get your 1 GB bundle for just 10 shillings.
Maseno University is committed to quality through teaching, research and development, providing timely services to foster and develop academic excellence. The university will hold its 22nd graduation congregation for the conferment of degrees and award of diplomas and certificates to be held virtually on Friday 16th December 2022 at the Graduation Square Siriba campus from 9 a.m. Join us for this live on NTV and on all the university's social media platforms. Maseno University, a fountain of excellence.
Everybody hands go up, and they stay there, and they say yeah. Me guide them jam, me no care.
For the best of the 2000s, tune in every Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and Sunday from 8 p.m. to 12 midnight. Rhythm and flow.
taking you back in the day.
Nation FM.
This week on Daring Abroad.
We really have a very good reputation here.
How Kenyans have taken Jersey Island's hospitality industry by storm.
There are several hotels here in town. Every department is represented by a Kenyan, from the receptionist all the way to the chef, housekeeping, restaurant.
Also on the show, our daring experience in Zanzibar as SafariLink spreads its wings to the island.
Zanzibar is extremely popular around the world. We have a lot of American citizens, Canadians, and then of course Europe.
This Saturday at 7:30 p.m. on NTV.
Make M-Pesa Go the safe and secure way your teens go cashless. Register your 10 to 17-year-olds via the M-Pesa app or Safaricom shop. It's go time.
Mother, I shall make you proud. Mother, your legacy will live. The little R is the one that strikes silent and unseen. May Mulungu guide your way.
We have to use your mother's return to rally all those that are still in doubt to join the cause.
Indeed, indeed, my sisters. We must attack.
Mimi anaitwa Profesa Ole Musondoro na niko hapa nikupatia ushauri kama rafiki. Naona sasa Christmas imekaribia. Badala Christmas ifike kasi yako ni kuombaomba tu watu, sijui nitumie, sijui ninunulie kuku, sijui nifanyie nini. Ndugu yangu, anza kujipanga saa hii. Anza kuficha shilingi 100 mahali. Kila siku unaficha 100. Kila siku unaficha 100. Ikifika siku ya Christmas utakuwa na pesa mingi sana ya kujinunulia kuku, ng'ombe, mbuzi, kujipeleka out na hata kujirudishia shukrani. Ndugu yangu,
to get Christmas by Ole Msondoro, dial star 811 929 hash. Skiza na Nation.
59 years after the Mau Mau struggle, the breaking news, one of the breaking news, a few days to this year's Jamhuri Day was about how a British national who had been reported missing was found in Kiambu drinking keg with the sons of Mau Mau.
Unapigiwa simu na mtu unazushiwa, lakini the whole time you just have to keep your calm. Uko tu ndio.
Wewe mtu amei kucall akitaka kukugonga atina kupigia kutoka Safaricom. Mara moja. Mara moja.
Crystal Rivers Residences, the future of fine living.
All right, welcome back. Yeah, the panel is still debating, still on the same. But it's so good to see you. We know Kidi Mwaga, governance and policy expert, Ascon Kamili, you says, right? Yeah. Kamili, youth policy analyst, as well as Nudin Kagai, who's an advocate, attorney, and a gentleman. You know, Kidi and, of course, Nudin, you wanted to respond to this in before. Yes. Okay, all right, before I read some of the tweets that, you know, the ODM leader, Raila Odinga, had posted, but again, on to you first.
My brother seemed to have suggested, while he was making his remarks, that we are opposed to the president's recommendations just on account that he opposed the BBI process, while it is on record that, for instance, yes, truly was in the BBI bandwagon.
All right.
I want to remind him that when the matter eventually ended up at the Supreme Court, the appellants had 7 questions that they took to the Supreme Court.
Right.
Out of the 7 questions, the Supreme Court agreed with the appellants on 5 of those questions. the only two of those questions that did not see light of the day at the Supreme Court was one, that the president cannot initiate an amendment.
All right.
And especially when there are amendment, as my brother had indicated, that touches on certain articles of the Constitution.
All right.
What we are saying is that let us first agree that we all love this country equally. And we want this country to succeed.
All right.
And looking at the background of our history, look at the amendments, the way we do them from 65 when we are becoming a republic. Because when we were becoming a republic, ideally we should have gone for an election. We did not.
We did not, yeah.
We made our prime minister the president. And then went on a series of changes until by the time we were getting to 1983, we become a by law single party state. And it does not get any better from that until we get to the point of repealing that old constitution when the people of Kenya enact and give unto themselves the Constitution of Kenya 2010.
All right.
What we are saying is that for the president to do this thing in a neater manner, then let us be candid. One, let us open up the public participation space so that if we want to say have a hybrid, because we can have a hybrid of both parliamentarism and presidentialism. Right. Let the people of Kenya tell us precisely how they want that done.
Okay.
Because the second question that did not see the light of day at the Supreme Court was the question of public participation. When the promoters of BBI were saying that the town halls that were done by both the task force and the steering committee sufficed as public participation.
All right.
But the court said that we also need to have a constituent assembly. If you look at what, he's a lawyer, he knows better, the case of Timothy Njoya and 6 others versus the AG. In the Timothy Njoya case, when a constituent assembly is described, and for purposes of our listener who may not have had the benefit of being a lawyer,
all right,
is that the same way we went to Bomas in 2003, 2004, to look into our constitution, to give recommendations. Now that was a proper constituent assembly.
All right.
So we would ask the president and his people to make sure that we have a proper coherent public participation where the people of Kenya can tell us precisely what if exactly it is pure presidentialism as it is, or remove parliamentary, but then if it is a hybrid, how do we tweak it so that it suits our unique circumstances and history
as a country?
Thank you.
All right, Nuruddin.
You know, when the president assumed office, he said that this will be a government that observes the rule of law.
Okay.
And I was very happy to hear that because, you know, we learn from history. And him being right as the deputy to the former president, you should have seen his hits and misses.
Okay.
Matters the law. Now, we have a very live matter in court to do with CDF.
Okay.
Now, when you bring such a recommendation, that is mischievous. Because at the end of the day, the matter is live in court, and it's more or less like a tactic, as a sweet way of trying to engrave it so that you avoid future litigations.
All right.
Number two, yes, we have an issue with matters gender parity when you look at our parliament.
Yeah.
And I believe we need to address it. But I read a lot of mischief because, you know, they say he who comes for equity must come with clean hands.
True.
You cannot fail to meet the threshold in your cabinet appointments, in your PS appointments, and then try to meet the requirements in parliament. It doesn't make sense. That's why I'm saying the political class is hypocritical.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, I believe that things like this office of the opposition leader, are you see, in BBI, there were sweeteners. Yeah. That is a sweetener in this.
Okay.
Because right now, there are things that he'd want. He'd want the CDF engraved in the constitution. Because you see, first and foremost, people have to understand why we have CDF, or why we got to have CDF. CDF came courtesy of the Kibaki government, because there were areas that were marginalized, areas that felt like, for example, we were not in government, so projects never went there. So the members of parliament used to try build schools and eat early. But now we have to ask ourselves a question. We are post-2010 constitution, where we have devolution.
Okay.
So my question is, why do you need CDF at the end of the day?
Okay.
You see, the problem is members of parliament, most of them use that CDF to enrich themselves. Others use it to campaign. It's a campaign tool.
Okay.
There are those who have worked with CDF but a majority of them misuse that fund.
Okay.
And they dare tell you that, you know, we don't have direct access, which is a lie, because at the end of the day, they propose names.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, I believe the reason why, that's why I say that house is captured. The reason why he needs those members of parliament to have CDF is because he who feeds you controls you.
Okay.
You get?
So they won't have like much power.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. All right. Okay. Very quickly, we're not delving deeper into the CDF thing. It was just about the office of the opposition leader. Very quickly. Okay. No. He has to. He has to. Very quickly,
just two
though.
things. I think there exists a very fine line between the president making proposals and the president sharing his opinion in his capacity as a president or also as a voter or as a Kenyan.
Okay.
I read the letter that the president shared with the speakers of the Senate and the National Assembly. And what I understood from the letter is the president was basically sharing an opinion, which is very different from how it was done when we were supporting the BBI or when the president initiated the process of constitution changing in the BBI.
All right.
That was a position where the president decided to form a committee. The committee was to steer the whole process, and this would result into the changes that we were proposing as at that time in the BBI. In this situation, I don't think the president has that much authority on parliament legally. You know, the president is an arm on its own as the executive.
Udini is actually shaking his head. Okay.
Of course, I know he's doing that because he's held the opinion that the president has captured the parliament.
Okay.
Which for me also paints the picture that we seem not to appreciate the place of politics in our governance system. While we say that parliament needs to be independent, we need to understand the process that births the parliament. You know, how do we get the MPs? We get them through our political process, you know, through political parties who have leaders who then become the presidents. So there's a really fine line between that, and then we need to appreciate that. But also, having said that, as I had said, I think in this case the president is not as keen as to appear as is the one who is initiating the process, but is equally sharing an opinion which he has had even before during the campaigns. I remember he was very clear about the office of the official opposition leader. I remember he was very clear about the two-third gender rule. And having said that as well, look, we've had presidents and we've had this question of the two-third gender rule for a very long time. I've not seen a president very committed, even when they have numbers in parliament, to whip their numbers to ensure that we solve this problem. And I'm certain, because considering the fashion in which William Ruto has been dealing with these members of parliament in the UDA and Kenya Kwanza, I'm sure if he trains his gun towards ensuring that two-third gender rule is sorted, I'd be very happy to see his UDA and Kenya Kwanza MPs vote in favor of his proposal. Because only that way can we get two-third gender rule sorted. If we don't whip our members of parliament in the direction of their party through their party leader, then we'll not be sure that this can be sorted out.
Okay. All right. I know we will continue with this conversation.
And there's no harm in that. And there's no harm in that. There's no harm in that. There's no harm in that.
Okay. Let's give him a chance very quickly. Let
me just do an illustration.
Very quickly. Okay.
There was a time when members of parliament from UDA had a clamor about this issue of GMO.
Okay.
And it brought about an issue, and some of them were told, go slow. The other day, the president was on air telling them, when they had a PG, do not criticize your own government. Wachia wale wengi. What does that tell you?
That's not bad. Let me tell you, bro.
You see, let me tell you. That is the independence I'm talking about.
Yes.
That is how, and I gave an example. We had a tyranny of number issue under Jubilee, where unconstitutional bills were passed in parliament. At the end of the day, the court ended up saying were unconstitutional. One of them is a security bill. It passed because they had numbers. Everybody said, I vote yes. But these members of parliament, most of them, don't even understand what is happening there. Some are sleeping, they wake up, how are we voting? As per the party line. And just vote yes. That is why I'm saying they are captured.
I think that's a very unfair comment that you'll allow me just 1 minute. Wakili, just 1 minute. Because this, I will lose this and it's very important. It's very important. It's very important.
Okay.
I think we are losing direction when we want to divorce our politics from our governance.
All right.
We need to understand that a member of parliament is elected on a party ticket. If you're elected on a UDA ticket, you are expected to toe the line of the position of the party. That is how politics is done. If you're elected on an ODM ticket, I don't expect an ODM MP to go out there dismissing the position of the ODM party. Once a party has taken a position on a matter, if you go to the South African parliament, the ANC will take a party position and they are expected to follow it. If you go to the US, when you're when you're Democrats or a Republican, you're expected to toe the line of the party position. In this case, William Ruto is the party leader of Kenya Kwanza and UDA. And when he makes, when the party takes a position on a matter, be it GMO, however unfair you may look at it, that is a party position, and I expect all the UDA MPs, just like I would expect
unconstitutional, even if it's
when
unconstitutional,
you check their out of office, I say, I will obey, I'll read it. I will obey, respect, uphold, preserve, protect, and defend this constitution.
Okay,
then why are you not sworn in with your party constitution?
Okay.
So how have you arrived? How have you arrived that?
Okay, let's give Kini a chance. Let's give Kini a chance, and then we will move forward.
Winnie, you've clearly placed me between two gentlemen who do not know a thing about turn taking.
All right, we are sorry.
First and foremost, my brother, until very recently, was a top honcho of the ODM party. And they say that if you want to, if an alligator comes from the water and tells you that the crocodile is sick, you will not, doubt him.
Yeah.
So, having heard the sentiments of my brother here, I am wondering if those are the general thinking, there was a general thinking in ODM.
All right.
I will tell my brother this, that there is everything wrong when, especially in a pure presidential system, when MPs are unable to exercise their oversight role and are therefore reduced to choir masters.
All right.
When, say, members of the UDA party and Kenya Kwanza as a coalition are gagged from, say, speaking their mind, especially in instances when government seems to be on, a downward spiral on matters respect to the rule of law or constitutionalism, then we would certainly be living in a tyranny. It must be remembered that even KANU, for all its, the time it was in power, there were moments when checks and balances came from within KANU.
Yes.
The days of Jean-Marie Seroney and other people. So I think one thing we must tell our brother, that as long as we, and I want him to go and look at what is called the Federalist Paper number 10 by James Madison. He is a lawyer. One thing that James Madison says in Federalist Paper number 10 is that the reason why we needed to have a large assembly of people who are elected over and above the president is that they should help keep the president in check.
All right.
Because it is not always that the person who occupies the office of the presidency will act, in a manner that is in furtherance of the law. We are all mortal beings.
All right.
And many other instances when we may be tempted to want to further political and personal interest in the name of the people.
Okay.
So yes.
All right. Okay, so we need to move on.
But just to finish, you could be an independent MP if you wish.
I mean, listen.
you don't have to go on an ODM ticket to change position.
Ticket. Okay, listen to this. So this is what Raila Odinga posted on his official Twitter page just about 3 days ago, and this is in relation to the president's stand. So it says, it's puzzling. Mr. Ruto's memorandum presents proposals without recognizing the fact that BBI reports, which are official government documents, contain all the proposals coupled with the rationale on why they had been deemed necessary by the people of Kenya. And then continues to say that instead, Mr. Ruto has appropriated the views of these people and speak of the proposals as his own. All right, continues to say, but further than that, in making these proposals, he falls foul of the same demands he made and used to lead the challenge against BBI. So says during BBI, Mr. Ruto demanded, number one, that a president cannot initiate constitutional amendments. Number two, the amendments must start with the people. Number three, that the process of amendment be people-driven, and the amendments must chiefly center on the interests of the common man. So he continues to say that had Mr. Ruto been honest on BBI, everything he has suggested in this memorandum would be law today. However, they can't be presented as he has done, nor processed through the procedure he is prescribing. He must comply with the same imperatives that he demanded during the BBI. I'm just going to leave it at that, because once we get there, we'll go on. But someone else whose literally fate hangs in balance, according to this cartoon, is, of course, one Kawira Mwangaza, and of course, I was saying, I mean, depending on, you know, what the Senate says, she might be one of the shortest serving, you know, governors. What do you guys make of this? You know, 62 out of 64 MPs vote, I mean, MCAs rather, 67. So 5 voted, right, for her impeachment, and then 2, that is because they were absent, right? What do you guys make of this fight between the governor and the MCAs?
First and foremost, that day we were treated to a Telemundo studio kind of affair, where they're all trying to be Alejandro serenading her, you know, they were saying in their home. You know, it's quite unfortunate, I believe, because the loser at the end of the day is the people of Meru County, because they elected leaders expecting people to work together.
All right.
There seems to be a disconnect. It's either there are some political games at play, because this impeachment is way too rushed. I'd really want to listen to the grounds once it gets to Senate, because they are meant to have a special sitting.
Yeah.
It's quite unfortunate because we are just from an election, you know, and people had so much expectations. She had a manifesto, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And but you can see there's some acrimony between her and the MCAs. Maybe they feel not respected enough. I don't know what the issue is, because they claim the husband has interference or whatever, but at the end of the day, we all play our roles. Nobody has an issue when the first lady or the first lady of a county is moving around. So let the man just do whatever he's doing, so long as he's not actually interfering with their duties. And I really believe we need to have a holistic approach to our impeachment in this country.
And I think the MCAs have been notorious for a while now, and you know, this is all about like impeachment motions here and there, left, right, and center.
Because most of the time our impeachment
processes
are mostly political. Yes. Most of them are political. Yes, most deserve the impeachments, courtesy of misappropriation. But for her, I really want to understand
what the real
gist,
issue is.
You know,
having
seen that she actually won in a very patriarchal society.
Yes.
To be the governor.
Yeah.
So let's wait and see what the Senate does. I really hope they'll be independent.
Okay.
That is if there's no political play. But if there's political play, she can always go to court.
Okay.
And actually,
she
can actually speed dial Wambora,
who
managed to experience those impeachment motions for the entire 10 years he was there. So he might give us some leakage.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we never know. We never know. Kiddy, very quickly.
Winnie, they say among the Igbo that when you see a toad jump in broad daylight, then there is certainly something after its life.
Yeah.
Kawira Mwangaza is in office, I mean, less than 4 months. So I am curious to see, especially at the Senate, that what are the grounds for her impeachment. Because I don't think disbursement has been done. If anything, she still has the budget of the previous administration. Her CECs were rejected, only 3 were accepted.
Yeah.
And I don't think that being accompanied by a spouse should, be grounds for impeachment. And our constitution, both the constitution and the County Government Act, have, enumerated clearly the grounds upon which a governor, elected governor, can be removed from office. And I don't think that having your spouse accompany you is one of such grounds. If anything, we've had male governors and even the president, both the outgoing, the former president and even the current president, being accompanied by their spouses. So that in itself is, not a ground.
Okay.
So we are waiting to see at the Senate precisely what are these issues that the MCAs are raising against the governor.
Yes. Okay.
But well, you cannot right away the fact that there could be political machinations at play.
Absolutely.
Especially considering that there were 2 heavyweights in Meru. The former CS Peter Munya, and then the outgoing governor Honorable Kiraitu Murungi. And both of them are political Machiavellis.
Yeah.
So I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if eventually, in the fullness of time, it is revealed to us that either of them is engaged in these machinations.
Okay. All right. We'll wait to see. We'll wait to see. All right. Camille, very quickly, do you want to contribute to the same?
Mine would be very simple. And maybe if somebody would be watching, one of her CECs is a very close friend of mine. She's probably watching. This would be my advice.
All right.
Kawira Mwangaza needs to organize her politics. While lawyers will tell her that she can go to court and get redressed, while anybody else can tell her, really, this doesn't matter. She needs to organize her politics. She needs to get into a marriage with the MCAs and understand what really are their concerns. You see Sakaja today is picking CECs and chief officers from the ODM party. While that might not be very beautiful in the eyes of those who supported him or those who were in the UDA, there is a trick in that. He's basically organizing his politics. He knows that the majority in the County Assembly of Nairobi is the ODM party. And the politics, if politics comes to play, he might just go home. So while the law defines how a governor could be impeached, politics equally and largely defines how an impeachment process could go.
How long the governor stays there.
People were impeached, including Mike Sonko, and they were advised by lawyers to go to court, and they went to the highest court, and their impeachment was upheld to that level, and today they don't know what to do with their lives politically. Now, she needs to look at it that way. While the law could provide you with avenues of, sorting your challenges at impeachment level, what is the politics around it? The politics around it is that the MCAs have grievances that they have shared publicly. They think the governor is a bit high-handed, guided by her spouse, which, as they have rightly said, is no harm, but politically there could be some underlying issues that we have not heard about. They have issues with how she's making her appointments. She needs to make it clear to them why she's doing such things. Like, for instance, I heard at one point she was saying she appointed one of her security officers who is related, who is her relation. So, for me, I don't think there's an issue with that. But making it clear out there to those, he's taking care of, like the county assembly, why he's doing that, makes no harm. She's a bishop, for heaven's sake. She needs to find a way of, coming together. Yeah, so basically, that's how it's supposed to be.
Form alliances with them instead of fighting. But, I mean, isn't it too late for that? Because majority of
it's not too late.
It's not like against her. No?
No, it's never too late.
There's always time. Okay.
As long as you're alive and you're breathing.
Okay.
Yeah. Just mentioned one more, right?
Okay. All right. And then, of course, the Taifa Leo has a very interesting, headline as far as that is concerned, and says Mwangaza alivyojipata gizani. All right. That is what Taifa Leo has, and of course the story again continues. We're not going to go into it so much because I can see our time is far much spent, but very quickly what the Standard has as far as the headline is concerned: Ruto in the eye of a storm over law change plan, and of course continues to say the Law Society of Kenya has joined the politicians in saying the president is breaching the law in pushing for amendments to the constitution and urges Kenyans to resist the movement. Of course, you can see there, LSK President Eric Theuri, who said the amendments, if pursued by way of the president's proposition, then the sovereignty of the people of Kenya would be undermined. And then former Mandera Senator Bill Okero says, what is the mischief to be cured by the proposed bill? Stop the opposition from going to the streets and being confrontational? He asked that question. And of course, the president himself said the purpose of this letter is to request that Parliament considers all policy measures to actualize the promise of our constitution. So we're not going to go into all the details as well. We've talked about it. And of course, today we wanted to talk about the year that is 2022. So that is what the Standard has as far as the headlines are concerned. Then very quickly on the Business Daily, KRA in dilemma over Ruto directive on seizing property, and says the president asked KRA to stop disabling business, and analysts laud the move but say it could abet evasion. All right. And of course, it's still on the front page. Kenya drops in ranking of Africa visa-friendly states. Again, says it slid further from the latest Africa visa-friendly ranking, indicating an increased difficulty for business people and holiday makers from the rest of Africa to visit the country. The country dropped 3 places to rank at 31 in the 2022 Africa Visa Openness Index, which measures how easy it is for Africans to enter one of the 54 countries on the continent covered in the study. So again, grab yourself a copy of the Business Daily or subscribe to ePaper, which is very simple, and of course get access to all the papers. And very quickly on the Star, again, we're just going to read the headlines, and that is Ruto team spells brutal cash cuts for state agencies. And of course, that story continues on pages 4 and 5, and still on the front page. Someone has been flagged, and this is the inside the 5 billion shillings debt, 3 billion stalled projects in Mombasa, where Mombasa Governor Abdul Somad Nasir's administration inherited a 5.26 billion debt and stalled the projects valued at 2.8 billion. The Auditor General, Nancy Gathungu, made the revelations in her latest audit report. Again, that story is on page 8. So the Star, again, you might want to read through and see what happens. All right. So that's it. I can see 14 minutes past 7. And we wanted to just review the year 2022, right? We're a few days shy from saying goodbye to this very interesting year that is 2022. A lot happened. we had the elections, the economy, that it was just too much, all right? And I just wanted to start from your personal, you know, experiences as far as 2022 is concerned. Forget politics, forget everything else. You know, was it yesterday or the day before we had similar conversation, and someone would say, maybe nilikuwa nataka kuomoka this year, lakini sijaomoka bado. So how has it been for you, you know, this year? And I'm just going to start with you. You know, can you tell us how the year has been for you?
2022 has been really an eventful year.
All right.
A year full of many fasts. In the last 5 years, I have, until very recently, I was working in the political circles and spaces.
All right.
So, of course, the first thing I must say is that the people of Kenya pleasantly, I mean, made us very proud when, after making their verdict on 9th of August, went ahead and gave the Supreme Court a chance to make a determination, and were able to, you know, have the presence of mind to appreciate why they gave the Supreme Court only one original jurisdiction, and that is to hear petitions from the presidential election. And also they understood why they didn't give the Supreme Court appellate jurisdiction over the same matter, so that it is settled once and for all, people have closure and move forward. And the peace, therefore, that prevailed around, you know, all this is something that is really commendable and one of the most beautiful things about the year. Because, again, of the determination that the people of Kenya made and the subsequent job losses that, you know, came with it, I must say that I got a new job.
Oh,
and now I am in a new ecosystem where I am still struggling to fit in. But, well, I mean, it signifies growth.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that is life, really. You know, you lose some, you win some. You know, you find your place, you find yourself in a place where you're not familiar with, but you learn, right? So it's a good thing. It's a good thing for you to even acknowledge that, listen, I am still trying to find my foot and trying to find my way around the same. All right. Camille, how has the year been for you?
Well, the year has been very interesting, like I said, when we began this conversation. And I would end up pouring my heart out too much to discuss
what
this year has been like.
Right?
But I think I didn't have a very good year, that I must admit.
Oh,
the year wasn't very good, particularly because I had a picture of what I wanted the year to end like. And unfortunately,
it did not.
It did not. So, but we thank God, because everything that happens, you know, could have a silver lining. You know, there could be something good that comes out of it. Could be a blessing in this case.
Absolutely.
So first and foremost, I must say the year was good to the extent that I was able to interact with so many people from across the divide. You know, get to interact with people on the intellectual space, interact with people socially. You know, get to pick here and there a few things that you didn't know, you know, earlier. So I must say the year was good to that extent. I interact with very amazing people. My brother Kidi here, I've known him for long, not just this year. But on this space, we have been here for a very long time, every Friday morning, discussing things and, you know, get to pick mind and understand things differently from colleagues. You know, so many things that happened that I really would want to appreciate in this year. I got a chance to expand a lot intellectually, you know.
Good thing.
Yeah, so I thank God up to that extent. But I also have to say that the year was not good to the extent that I supported a candidate, that is Raila Odinga. I was very passionate about Raila's candidature. Unfortunately, he didn't make it. So my plans were crushed to an extent. Just the other day, I was watching why Raila lost on NTV, and a lot of heartbreaking revelations that you know, came from that interview. It still speaks to the fact that things could happen, but there could be a silver lining to it. So I'm hoping that 2023 will be a better year. And going forward, we have to keep ourselves, you know, our eyes on the focus. You know, keep going.
I mean, we can never lose it. We can never lose focus. All right, and of course, I'm gonna just pick your brain a little bit, and this is as far as the. Especially from the revelations, based on the feature that our very own Kennedy Murray, they actually ran. And a lot of things came to play. And one of the things, and even Ida Odinga herself also spoke and said, we were betrayed. So then when it comes to politics and loyalty and all those things, I'll be picking your brain just a little bit on this, and what we can learn so that come 2027, you know, we know better, and we approach elections from sort of like a level head, other than having, you know, some things at the back of our minds. But Nurdin, very quickly, for you?
Well, it's been a long year.
It's been a long year. How many days?
I think
it's been 500 days.
I think this has to be, it has been a long year because finally campaigns are over, kinda. Because now we still have by-elections. But you know, we've been campaigning for the past 5 years as a country, which was sad.
Yeah.
But I believe personally, you know, I think this is a time when people sit down and jot down next year's resolutions.
Resolutions, yes.
I stopped doing that a while back.
You did?
I just go with I roll with the punches, you know. Whatever comes, and I hope for the best.
Okay.
It's been a good year mentally, spiritually. It's been a good year. I've made good networks. I've got good judgments, you know, courtesy of the courts, and. That tells me there's growth. There has been growth. Yeah. But my highlight for the year, I'm very passionate about the young people. And so I host tournaments from time to time, peaceful tournaments. My highlight of the year is that this election we haven't lost a soul. That is my highlight. Because I really hoped and prayed that no one would die this election. It would be different. And I'm glad we didn't have any issues of chaos and violence. And that people actually, we can't say moved on. People actually just, you know, refrained. And I commend the political class for that because you see, they tend to instigate their supporters. So at least for today morning, I've also congratulated them, even though I've bashed them since we started.
And so at least they did a good thing. At least they did a good thing. All right, how about we take a break? But when we come back, then we'll want to understand. So in different aspects, you know, as far as we as a people in life. So we'll talk about like governance, you know, employment, some of the opportunities, and especially when it comes to the young people and the kind of leadership that we are seeing today. We can say, yes, we have seen a bit of growth, but what is it that needs to be done so that again, come 2023 and even subsequent years, you know, we move better because we know better. So of course, that is what we'll be focusing on after the break. Stay with us. This is AM Live, but remember, like we said, this is your show as well. So you want to participate, you want to contribute and tell us how the year has been for you, what has been your highlights. Again, feel free to engage with us on our socials at NTV Kenya at Lubembe_Winnie. But you want to call in live and also share your experience as far as 2022 has been, feel free to do so. But all that is coming up on the other side of the break. Stay with us.
Recharge today and get upgraded.
Feliz Navidad, hijos.
This is the best Christmas ever.
Star Times. Enjoy digital life.
Did you know shorter is better on YouTube Shorts? Stand a chance to win cash or free data every day. Buy the daily YouTube for 10 bundle and stand a chance to win cash or free data every day. Buy the YouTube for 10 bob bundle. Create a YouTube short with a hashtag shorter is better. Best video with the most likes stands a chance to win weekly cash prizes.
In your paper this week, Kagame, Tshisekedi using M23 to delay polls. The Rwandan president suggests his DR Congo counterpart holds the peace in its eastern region, but chooses to blame Kigali. Guns go silent in Addis Tigray conflict. Money. East Africa community states miss targets for single currency. Plus our opinion leaders. Oh, Dodoma, the little town with the ridiculously grandiose Ikulu. LC Eyakuze, will the real peacemaker and political stabilizer please stand up? Charles Onyango Obo. Magazine, The Gomesi, Uganda's symbol of respect and dignity. For these and more stories, get your copy of the East African.
FIFA would have just said, you know what, let's do this. We will give you the song. Do a vote, a global vote. Which song do people prefer? Do you prefer this one or this one? Okay, fine.
Like the sky
So every World Cup cycle, you just refine it, give it a local flavor. Because this song is forgettable.
Let me try and give you something about it. Hopefully it will make it less forgettable. They say this music video done for the song, it celebrates the groundbreaking inclusion of female referees at the World Cup. That's why they're all in the video.
That's fantastic.
But it's the beat you have a problem with.
Yes, because music is about what you're hearing, not what you're seeing.
I get you, because this was fantastic.
It gives you that, like, you feel like standing up.
Spot On, in association with Visa.
Tap to pay with your Visa card and live the action this FIFA World Cup. Visa, official FIFA World Cup partner.
Flow.
Now lean back, lean back, lean back, come on.
Hard to the easy, and to the some of them, some of them. Come on, I'm jump on them, I'm rock them. Some of them. For the best of the 2000s, you tune in every Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and Sunday from 8 p.m. to 12 midnight. Rhythm and flow.
Taking you back in the day.
Nation FM.
Wagwan Republicans, hope mko ready because pia tuko ready. Show inaenda kuwa moto hata kabisa. That's why pale studioni we're gonna be hanging out with Miondoko Masters wenyewe, Miondoko tu. Alafu pia Rico Gang wanamoke.
And on Bazenga, we got to chill out with the Kenya's baddest international DJ. That is none other than Fully Focus. And on the hangout, all matters Nairobi culture. Ndani ya Nairobi Festival. Na kama kawaida, music policy will be courtesy of DJ Rickmo, the Afro King.
Crystal Rivers Residences, the future of fine living.
Maseno University is committed to quality through teaching, research and development, providing timely services to foster and develop academic excellence. The university will hold its 22nd graduation congregation for the conferment of degrees and award of diplomas and certificates to be held virtually on Friday 16th December 2022 at the Graduation Square Siriba campus from 9 a.m. Join us for this live on NTV and on all the university's social media platforms. Maseno University, a fountain of excellence.
All right, we're back. Welcome back. This is AM Live, and of course, it's all about the youth perspective on this Friday. And of course, we just want to take stock of how the year has been. And like I said, you know, you want to share with us how the year has been for you. Feel free to do so at NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on Twitter, and as well as at Lubembe_Winnie. Tag me as well. And we'll be reading that as we continue with the conversation. Very quickly on a comment, this is as far as the BBI conversation that we're having earlier on, as well as the president's stand, as far as the office of the official leader of opposition. Someone here says, this is Gitura Hugo, says, BBI was a completely different animal. One item here does not equate to the multi-headed BBI ogre. Hey, okay. And then someone else actually says, very true. Okay. But again, we'll be sampling your feedback as we continue, especially how the year has been. What are the gaps, you know? And what are some of the areas that needs to be strengthened? And let me just begin on the whole aspect about employment, right? COVID-19 came, again, a number of people lost their jobs, and then the campaigns came, were promised, you know, jobs, especially when it comes to the young people. We're almost closing the year. What
you know, first and foremost, there's this obsession with everyone who seeks to be the president.
Yeah.
Promises 1 million jobs a year.
Yes.
They always quote the same figure.
Yes.
And you ask them how, they can't tell you. Because for them, they think desk jobs are what young people want. There's something the president has said during Jamhuri Day, the monetization of the social media. That would be a game changer if only it is done. Okay. See, the problem is we have good ideas and we never implement. So I'll give you the benefit of doubt, and I hope that is done. It's not easy, because you know you've said you've talked to them, but they also have to agree to do so. If they do so, that's a game changer, and our country, most of the young people, you know, are into Facebook, Instagram, such things. So they will make a living. The only danger I see ahead is that they'll be heavily taxed.
Oh, right.
Of course. But now...
Kere is watching.
Yeah, you know, you see the government is looking for funds at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And moving forward, I believe we need to look at other aspects of employment for the young people.
All right.
We now have a youngish CS for sports, youth, and arts. And he talks... Every day things he's on the news. He talks a lot. I hope he realizes that for us to change our sports, I've heard about a bottom-up football tournament. Like I told you, I host tournaments.
Yes.
There's nothing there.
Okay.
For that to work, a lot has to be put into place. I'll give them an example, if they are watching, that is. For that tournament to actually reap benefits, you need to inculcate and bring about scouts to tap into that talent. I'll give you an example. Look at the Moroccan national team.
Yes.
Most of them play their trade in Europe. Most of them have been trained in academies abroad, you know. So if we bring about nurturing our talent and then get scouts to actually tap into that talent, we move. And then the other thing is facilities, for example.
Yeah.
And then we also have to commercialize our football.
Yeah.
Because I'll give you an example. When COVID hit, as you rightfully say, most of our KPL players became border riders, and when some became hawkers.
Yeah.
That tells you that whatever they play for is either to pay rent or to eat.
Yeah.
There's nothing commercial about it. It does not build them. And so the day I see a government that actually does that and focuses on how to commercialize our sports, not just football, because there's basketball, we have good players.
There's a lot of things.
There's athletics that now we have doping issues. There's rugby that is dwindling, you know. So if we focus on how to commercialize our sports, and then bring about good agents to our players, and then teach them about financial, the financial aspect about the football, we'll move forward, because it's so sad to see a player go out there, play, come back and is broke. Yeah. It's sad. It tells you the financial discipline, they didn't go through it, you know. I really hope, 5 years is a long time. I see there's a bid for AFCON. I hope they get it.
Yeah.
And there's a 2030 vision for World Cup.
Yeah.
We wait to
you gotta have a hope. You gotta have
we wait to see. You see, I'm not one who believes in a lot of talk.
Okay.
Just implement it.
Action.
But at the end of the day, all our federations have issues. Okay. It starts from there. You cannot
the leadership.
You cannot change anything unless you work on the federations.
All right.
We look at our regulations, our legislation, matters to do with sports, and then the integrity of the officials that get into office. Yeah. If that is done, all these promises will be achieved. Otherwise, there will be hot air and red air.
At the end of the day, 1 billion jobs, Kiddy. Youth and province job. And what Nurdin is saying, like majority of the times, politicians, you know, would talk, you know, and say things that they think the youth want to hear. And once you hear, they'll provide 1 million jobs in a year. Of course, you know, one way or the other, you might find yourself leaning towards that. And then the implementation, you know, becomes a big of a challenge. So this whole aspect about employment and how we did this year, what would you say?
Playing to the gallery appears to be something that the political class have mastered. We must first appreciate where we are and where we want to be as a country. The global economy in the last 1 decade has been in the decline, especially after the financial crisis of 2008. Because economists tell us that to be able to put a meaningful dent on poverty and increase per capita income in one generation, an economy must grow within the range of at least 3% in a year. Up to the time we were getting into the COVID pandemic in 2019-2020, most of what you call the global north were unable to grow within that range. But the situation was more dire in the global south. Countries like Sub-Saharan Africa, Southeast Asia, et al. So then we elect a government that was largely elected by people who are feeling the bite of the high cost of living.
All right.
What worries me is how the government has set out to conduct its business. Its flagship project is Hustler Fund.
Yes.
But you realize that Hustler Fund, especially in implementation, is so fundamentally different from how it sounded and appeared in the campaign trail.
During the campaign period, yes.
So then the people are unable to afford food on the table. The cost of transportation fares are still very high. Energy is still through the cost of energy is still through the roof. These are things we must be able to bring down to manageable levels, so that our people are not, you know, harassed by the high cost of living. If you look at Hustler Fund, I am not an economist, so I would not want to go into the specifics of saying that 500 will make a difference or not.
Okay.
Or that if 500 is the minimum, say then we have got this large segment of, say, that gets a loan of 2,000
2,000 shillings, yeah.
That this 2,000 shillings is going to create a whole difference. Because one thing that then this does is that if you give people, say, this 2,000, if you are able to lend them this 2,000 shillings, what means is that we are going to build an economy of, you know, a thriving and informal economy that, one, remains largely out of the reach of the taxman. Secondly, even if we were to bring it within the reach of the taxman, then very little would still be left for these people to survive. What we know is that this government must very fast make necessary investment to ensure that we spur our productivity as a country.
All right.
There are three things that makes an economy grow. What you produce as an economy, and then what you consume, then the investment you've made in your people, and then the infrastructure.
All right.
Today, one of the problems we are facing, not only as a country, but also as a region, is the question of collapsed food systems. The president seems to be, you know, has been speaking, you know, passionately about importation of fertilizer.
Yeah.
But you see, when you import fertilizer, but we still rely on rain-fed agriculture, that fertilizer may not mean much.
Yeah.
So that how then do we make investment to transit from rain-fed agriculture to
like
irrigation, so that number one, we are able to produce sufficient food for our people, and so that when we were young, we used to see that poster, kick polio out of Africa.
Yes.
So that now today we can say within the next, say, 1 year or 1.5 years, we are able to kick hunger out of our country, and then move to the area of export.
Okay. All yes. Right. So then in terms of then priorities and doing better and involving young people, you know, on the same, because a lot of people were really excited about the Hustler Fund during the campaign.
Yes.
And then here we are today. It's more of, you know, we'll give you some money, like, make sure you repay within 50 days.
And repayment is, there's no problem with repayment.
It's good.
The only problem, and I will tell you, my problem is, I will not even get into what I consider legal hurdles. Of course, not BBI, Hustler Fund has got legal challenges.
Yes.
One of them is that we have this Hustler Fund that is now sitting without a board and without a CEO. And the law provides that there are people who are to be appointed to sit in that board
and oversee.
When that has not been done, the question is, if today I have a dispute with the Hustler Fund, say not improper money has been wired to my account, say less or more, so say I want to institute proceedings, and my brother here, Kagai, will tell you that I have to serve Hustler Fund. So whom will I serve?
Exactly
will I serve Twitter? Will I serve them via Facebook? So these are things that also the president needs to to make this process neater.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
All right. And of course, Kamili, seeing what and especially during the year and the whole aspect about employment and all those things. So then what do we need to sort of like do better? And especially when it comes to these promises that, you know, are voiced out every single day, you know, as far as the young people. We've seen the president embracing, you know, the digital space, embracing technology, and even the creative arts as well, just to make sure that the young people sort of like feel involved and are involved as well and get something at the end of the day. So what is it that then we need to do better?
Well, thank you. Ale, you had asked me my opinion about about the revelations that were shared by Kennedy.
Yes.
And maybe just in a minute, I think that was the highlight of my troubles with 2022.
All right.
Because I think at that point, I got to learn how not to be a president.
All right.
Because just like those who have spoken about the happenings of 2022 in relation to the election, I got a chance to sit somewhere a bit strategic within the Azimio setup. And I would say that Raila Odinga lost the election on the material day of the election.
All right.
And it was very unfortunate because it is something that could have been avoided. It is something that people talked about. It is something that concerns were raised. But out of some level of high-handedness and some level of ignorance, nobody took the concerns seriously.
Okay. What are some of these concerns?
Like, for instance, I remember at one point, personally, I raised an issue with our tallying center. Actually, I would say we didn't have a tallying center. And I was very concerned. I raised it with the highest of the highest. But nobody seemed to believe that we actually needed a tallying center. There was this thinking that there was somebody somewhere who was going to fix things. I remember at some point, in fact, that is the level to which I felt betrayed as a person. Because I would say, I didn't understand why the right people were relegated to the periphery, or the sharp people who could midwife a victory in terms of doing the math, in terms of analyzing the data, in terms of looking at things critically. They were all relegated to the periphery. Nobody was allowed to access what was going on. Nobody was allowed to know what was happening, you know, until the point when Chebukati was declaring Ruto as president. I dare say, even the Azimio top brass did not know what was going on.
Okay.
I remember at some point when KICC was happening, when the carpet was being rolled, after I had sat down with some of my colleague engineers and we did the math, and it was clear to us that Raila Odinga was trailing and could not bridge the gap. I went to KICC and shared this information with some of our guys there who were sitting at very strategic areas. And I told them my math, or our math, with data, is showing that we are trailing by this much, and that there's no way by projection Raila Odinga was going to bridge this gap.
Okay.
So the guy arrogantly told me, you know, Ascon, you're still very young, and out of excitement you might not understand what is at stake in this election.
All right.
Do you think Kibicho can afford to lose this election? Do you think Uhuru can afford to lose this election?
All right.
Where will Matiang'i go?
Okay.
And I was surprised. I was left like, you of all the people telling me this? Like you believe in some conspiracy theories and stories that are not adding up?
All right.
So suddenly they left and went to the Bomas. What they were doing in Bomas, I could not understand because they didn't have no data. They didn't have nothing fed to their systems from any source. So we didn't understand.
Right.
So personally, I knew Raila Odinga was losing the election on the first and the second day of the election. And it was a very sad thing. It was the most heartbreaking thing to watch, considering that for me, I thought Raila was doing his final stab and might not have gotten another chance anytime in 2027 or thereabout.
Okay.
So I must say that that was a very sad moment for me as a person, considering that we left ignorance and arrogance to prevail where there could have been the right people to do things, to think properly, and to ensure that things were done accordingly. And that was a lesson to me as a person, and a lesson to so many people, that anytime that you are engaged in a process, ensure that you pick the best of brains, you pick the most diligent of people, you pick the most committed of people to ensure that your vision is achieved.
Okay, and plan.
Onto the employment question.
There's so many things that we also need to go through. Okay.
Onto the employment question. I think Kidi has touched on the Hustler Fund, and maybe I would give it another dimension. In my view, I think the Hustler Fund has had, because when I was campaigning for Raila Odinga, I also took time to listen to William Ruto very keenly, and I would want to understand and strike a difference on what he proposes and what we were proposing then. The implementation of the Hustler Fund, in my view, is the exact picture William Ruto painted in the campaigns.
Is it?
Because yes, because William Ruto was very clear that his target was not the learned as such. His target was not the university graduate as such. His target was at the base of the strata. The mamambogas and the boda bodas. And it was very clear by this example that there are people who trade in this country by waking up in the morning, picking money from the Shylock, trading with this money during the day, and returning this money at very exorbitant rates later in the day. And these are the people he was targeting. And he understood that these are the numbers and these are the voters in the country. Even today, when he says he's going to lend you 500 shillings, he's not targeting Kidi Mwaga or he's not targeting myself or Wakili. He's targeting that Mama Mboga in Kawangware, who needs just 500 shillings, or that shoe shiner in town, who needs 500 shillings to hire a place to do the shoe shining, earn 1,000 bob or 1,500, pay back the 500, and go home with 1,000 shillings.
Okay.
And that, in my view, is a way of bringing up people who are at the base of the stratum to a level. We might not all become rich, or we might all not have the ambition to be billionaires, but there are people who just want to move from where they are to a bit higher pedestal.
Higher place.
Now, secondly, the Hustler Fund, in the model in which it is being executed, in my view, is the most amazing thing. Why would I say this? When we have such things like the Women Fund, the Youth Fund, and the rest, the formalities and the bureaucracy around them do not permit you, do not even cost the excitement to go and seek these opportunities, because you're told to go and look for your partners, look for a certificate from where, and young people don't have that time. What we need is, can I use my phone, ask for 1,000 bob, and get it and use it and pay it back in the evening? Actually, as Kidia said, he doesn't have a problem with the repayment, because that is the responsibility of a proper citizen.
People, yes.
You know,
Make sure
for me, I think, as long as we are able to get the money easily, and I understand the concern about the legal issues around it, but we also have to appreciate the reason why this is being done this way. The bureaucracy with which we have been executing these ideas has caused a lot of people to, just ignore and not to be very excited about these ideas. How to move the Hustler Fund from where it is to the next stage should be our concern now. But the model with which it's being executed, in my view, is the most perfect model and the most effective. But lastly, I think I have to congratulate the President also for redefining how we celebrate our national holidays. We'd have had talks about the history of Kenya, how Kenyatta, Jaramogi, and the rest did this and that. But I think we've had enough of that. We're in a situation where the country needs to know how we are moving forward. We need to know how we are reorganizing our economy. We need to know the approach we need to take towards ensuring these things happen. The President was very categorical that we are going to have a theme for each and every national holiday. We're not going to see people singing and telling us how they did so well in the Mau Mau. We all know that, and we appreciate it to that level. But we need to know the Mau Mau of today are the young people who are suffering and who are learned and need to give them opportunities. The President was yesterday talking about how he intends to have the U.S. come and invest in Kenya. And he was very clear about the position and the capacity of the U.S. and its investors in terms of capital and in terms of know-how. These are two things that if we invest in Kenya today, in terms of ensuring that our youth have the capacity and that capital is injected in our economy, then we'll be able to advance the concept of innovation. In fact, in my view, as an engineer, innovation is not what the Bible would say a miracle. It's not something that has never been done. It's not something that has never been done before. It is solving problems using innovative means, coming up with ideas of solving societal challenges. And if we encourage our young people, in fact, I was just addressing something in a certain forum the other day, and I was telling people, if we stop asking our children what they want to be in future and ask them what problems or what societal problems they see every day that they wish to solve, then we'll be able to change our approach to things. If you ask a child what problem they wish to solve, and they will clearly tell you, I see my mom and my dad in an acrimonious engagement each and every day, and I want to solve this. You don't need to be an engineer to solve that, but at least he has a problem disturbing his mind that as he goes through school, he wants to solve. Maybe as a psychologist, he wants to solve as a sociologist, he wants to solve a problem. Get the point?
The question for majority of us, and I think Dean raised the same, that is the policies, ideas, all these promises, they're good. They're really, really good. But then the implementation part of it is where we usually have trouble. All right, and of course, let's just then delve into the whole aspect of governance, and leadership in the country. What have we learned in 2022, and moving on 2023? What is it that you want to take forward? You want to take that?
First and foremost, I believe after this election, we have a good number of young leaders who've gotten elected, and today, being a youth perspective, congratulations to them. But for me, I have a different view. I really hope and pray that, there's a sad reality that people out there say, there's this question, when a young person seeks election in certain areas, they're being told, oh, vijana wako tayari, they're not ready. And that is because most of us sent to these seats end up doing zero, or zilch, as they call it. Now, they have something called Kenya Young Parliamentarians Association. I hope that organ can actually help them bring about how we add more young people to parliament. And we just don't need numbers. We need numbers that actually work. In that, be different from those who you found there. But the sad reality is that we have those who get there and get absorbed by the system. Now, I would do an injustice if I don't just shed light on two things that he said. Because the lawyer in me wouldn't allow me to say.
Very quickly, very quickly.
Let me rush. Number one, Hustler Fund. As he rightfully says, my brother here, there's an issue about legislation.
There are a lot of gaps,
which is true, there are a lot of gaps. Number one, most Kenyans don't even understand legal the penalty implications that are there. They don't know the information. Like, for example, they don't know that if you default in payment, you know, it's 8% interest annually. If you default in payment, it goes to 9.5% annually. If you default 30 days consecutively, your account is frozen. Then there's something there they call the government will institute recovery measures. Which measures we don't know. Are they going to send you what they sent to Westlands the other day, what we saw there? You know, and then we have to understand that we're coming from where we are coming from. You see, these issues about affirmative funds started with Kibaki. Then Uhuru borrowed the same, and then now the president now has his own. Those that came before had issues, and some of them had issues also with the banks. Issues that to date some of them haven't been solved. How we negotiate towards those issues or challenges is how the Hustler Fund will succeed. So they need to look at the challenges that those ones faced and vis-a-vis how they want the Hustler Fund to go forward. So there are some issues that people need to understand. The issue about M-Pesa, people asking why do you need the M-Pesa payment? It's because you see the other funds, they had to wait for you to repay to give me a loan. Now this one, you know, it reminds me of 2013. Tumetoka digital, tumetoka analog to digital. So this one, they bring about the technology in this fund. In that, even if you think you won't repay, they still have
your data,
your details, you know. And that is, so they connect the technology with the fund. And those are things people need to understand. And so there's an issue of data privacy. That is what people need to see from there. Now, let me move very fast.
In 30 seconds, because we're literally being chased out of the studio.
In 30 seconds. Let me move very fast to what you talked about, the Jamhuri Day celebrations. It is good that the president has his own vision, his way of doing things, innovation, everything. But what struck out for me that day is when the previous day I saw a daily, on the daily, the front page, the wife to Dedan Kimathi saying, allow me to bury my husband before I die. So we cannot even purport to move ahead without solving the past.
The past,
that day is meant to talk about how we got independence. Now the question I dare ask is, those who fought for independence, have we achieved what they wanted? If the answer is no, then we are doing the wrong things.
All right, so solve that first and then come. Very quickly, Kidi, on governance and you know, the leadership and all those things. Very quickly, in literally a minute.
Thank you very much, Winnie. One thing that Wakili maybe has forgotten to say, or maybe your time has not allowed him, is the question about data protection law. For instance, in the Hustler Fund, we are told that you have to key in your M-Pesa PIN. The problem may not be with that specific Hustler Fund transaction, but then we may need to also know where this PIN is stored, where all this information is stored. The question about procurement, Public Procurement and Disposal Act 2015, there is non-compliance. The other question is, where is this money coming from? The question of appropriation. When there is an appropriation of more than 1 billion, there needs to be, that money needs to get approval from Parliament. This 50 billion, we have not seen Parliament sitting to approve it. And there is a misconception in this country that when you point out the ills of a government, that you are anti-government. I will tell you that I was working around and with the team Handshake in 2018, April 2022. When the former president, refused to appoint the 6 judges, some of us were asking questions. Of course, there were muted voices, especially from the ODM side, because it had become a crime to question the president and his brother. Because we were saying that the JSC has finished its deliberations. And then we are told that there is some supposed intelligence against these judges. Why was not this brought before the JSC? There was someone I was working with who used to supposedly work for people at the top, who asked me, and of course without grace, that how do you expect the president to share intelligence with the JSC? So even as we point out some of the shortcomings in this administration, we are doing so from a standpoint of love. And when we sound disappointed, it is because a great disappointment only comes from a place of greater love.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right. All right. So very quickly, someone was asking what is happening in Kalu. Yes. But again, Kanu.
They are asking that because they now belong to Kanu.
Yes.
Yes. I will tell you that.
What has happened to your SG?
Kanu Party, I will answer comprehensively.
Okay.
Yes.
Kanu
Not
Party,
comprehensively because yes.
Kanu Party has underperformed in the last 2 elections, 2017, 2022.
Yes.
And our car is as good as the people who are driving it.
Okay.
And therefore, a time has come when heads have got to roll. Because soul searching alone is not enough.
Okay.
When heads roll and fresh blood is infused, then you will see the cockerel crow again.
Okay, all right, and we're just going to leave it at that. All right, so this is our last show for the year, right? We're taking a break as AM Live, and then, of course, you know, breathe, you know, relax, and then when we come back, of course, we're going to come back full force. So I'm just going to give you a chance as we end the conversation to wish someone, right? Happy holidays. Who is it that you want to wish? Very quickly. Even as we end, you know, the show, and as we end, again, put a pause on the show, then we'll come back next year. So very quickly, let me start with you, you know, Kavili, as we end this.
I think that's a very good one. Let me begin by saying it's been a great pleasure being on this show almost every Friday for the past 6 or 7 months. Hosted initially by Olive.
Yes.
Now we have you here, and it's really been a good opportunity to debate current issues, and to talk about so many things that are very important in the country. So it's a great pleasure, and I thank the Nation Media and this AM Live show for always giving us a chance as young people to share our views about so many things. And also to add on to that, I think I just want to wish a good year to all the young people out there who are struggling, because I know there's so many young people out there of diverse extractions who are really struggling to make ends meet. And the age between 21 or 24 and 30 is a very chaotic age where you have a lot of things going on. You're not sure what's going to happen. You're not sure if you're making it.
Yes.
I understand it because I'm part of that bracket.
Okay.
I wish all the young people who are working hard, not the ones who are just lazing out and thinking things will align accordingly. All the young people who are working hard from whatever extractions, just keep doing what you're doing. It's going to come.
I see that. I see that. Thank you very much. Kidi and Ascod, I mean, not Ascod, thank you for that. And Nurdin, literally 30 seconds, okay? Musian's speech, just 30 seconds each.
Thank you very much. I send good year wishes to all the mothers, particularly the young mothers, who are in the forgotten corners of this country, who are struggling to raise children, who are struggling to be present, who are struggling to make a difference in the society. They must know that they are not forgotten. They must know that they are in our thoughts and prayers, and that a better day shall come.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kidi. All right, Kagai, very quickly.
First and foremost, I say thank you to the hosts, that is you, Zainab, Oliver, and everyone behind the production. I wish all of you, first and foremost, a good festive season.
Thank you.
And most importantly, to all the Kenyans out there who listen to the debates and who are busy doing things that empower them in their lives. I wish them all the best. Stay safe, and as the IG says, you know, security starts with you, safety duty. So take care of yourself so that security comes to take care of you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
This is very important.
I think this is very important.
Well, there's a politician. I think this is very important. This panel has had one of us called Maina Karobia.
Okay.
Maina has been part of this panel for the last 6 months, almost every Friday.
All right.
And I think it really warms my heart to get to know that Maina today is a member of Parliament in the East African Legislative Assembly.
All right.
So we have to congratulate Maina for that, and also congratulate this panel for making leaders.
For making leaders. Thank you. All right, Sernudin Kagai, Advocate Escon, Kabili Youth Policy Analyst, as well as Kidi Mwaga, Governance and Policy Expert. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming by today. Happy holidays to you and to your family as well. And we hope to see you next year as well. So stay safe, even as you tell other people to stay safe. Stay safe yourselves, all right? And thank you so much. I will. And thank you so much for staying with us as well until the end of the conversation. My name is Winnie Lubembe. Enjoy your holiday season. We're taking a break right here on AM Live, but of course we'll see you next year. That is in January 2023. So until then, God bless and happy holidays. Goodbye for now.
Fruity freshness in every sip.
Hallelujah! The Lord is worthy of all praise.
God rewards faithfulness. And he's saying to Abraham, you have been faithful. You have walked the journey, you've stayed the course. And I will show myself faithful on your behalf. When we pray, we say, God, we are trusting you for breakthrough. We are waiting on you for breakthrough. But do you know what? Sometimes it is God who is waiting on you.
This week on Daring Abroad.
We really have a very good reputation here.
How Kenyans have taken Jersey Island's hospitality industry by storm.
There are several hotels here in town. Every department is represented by a Kenyan, from the receptionist all the way to the chef, housekeeping, restaurant.
Also on the show,